Before you try to piece together the truth, I want you to stop and imagine this. 2 small beds, one pink, one blue, both untouched. A half-empty cereal bowl waiting on the kitchen counter. And silence. The kind that tells you something has gone horribly wrong. On the morning of May 2, 2025, in the rural quiet of Pictou County, Nova Scotia, 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack disappeared. By 10 a.m., their mother's voice was on the line with 911, reporting that the children were gone. Within minutes, the first RCMP cruiser pulled into the driveway on Lansdowne Station Road. Officers expected to see signs, small footprints pressed into the wet earth, the sound of children running through the trees, maybe a neighbor who caught a glimpse. But instead, there was only absence. No tracks. No witnesses. No trace at all. Just one day earlier, on May 1st, Lilly and Jack had been seen with their family in public. Surveillance footage, since confirmed by investigators, shows them alive and well. And then, without warning, gone. The RCMP's initial theory was simple. Perhaps the children had wandered off on their own. But as hours passed and the search revealed nothing, authorities were forced to admit the possibility of foul play. In Pictou County, a place where neighbors know each other by name, the news spread like wildfire. Signs went up overnight across the community, Pictou County's children now. Vigils were held, candles flickering in the wind. Entire families joined search lines through the thick brush and forest. But every hour without answers deepened the dread. And this wasn't just a rural town's tragedy. The case carried wider significance, touching the Sipeknekatik Mi'kmaq First Nation, where extended family ties connected Lilly and Jack's disappearance to a history of community struggle and resilience. But as the helicopters circled, as dogs combed the forest trails, and as hundreds of tips poured into police, something darker began to take shape. A shift in the investigation. A whisper that the real answers weren't hiding in the woods at all, but much closer to home. The morning Lilly and Jack were reported missing, the response was immediate and massive. By noon, the quiet skies of Pictou County shook with the sound of helicopters. RCMP officers, volunteer firefighters, search dogs, and entire families from the community spread across every ditch, every field, every trail. Drones buzzed overhead. The search was relentless. But by May 7th, just 5 days later, that search began to scale back. Behind closed doors, investigators admitted what no one wanted to say out loud. The odds of finding Lilly and Jack alive had dropped to near zero. The case was handed over to the RCMP Major Crime Unit. More than 11 specialized RCMP divisions became involved: general duty officers, forensics, technical surveillance, child exploitation units, all working under a new mandate. This was no longer just a missing persons case. It was an investigation into what might be a crime. Detectives reviewed hundreds of hours of surveillance video, trying to retrace the children's last confirmed steps on May 1st. They conducted 54 interviews with friends, family, and neighbors. Some were even asked to take polygraph tests. More than 488 separate tips poured into investigators, each one logged, evaluated, prioritized. And yet, not one broke the case open. Then came the man at the center of growing suspicion, Daniel Martel, the children's stepfather. According to Daniel, he and the children's mother were in the bedroom with their infant when Lilly and Jack somehow slipped out a sliding glass door, one that he insists makes no sound. He told police he never heard it open, never heard it close. By the time he realized they were gone, it was too late. Daniel launched his own parallel search, scouring trails on an ATV, checking sheds and vehicles. He handed over his phone, offered to take drug tests, even volunteered for a lie detector. "I have nothing to hide," he told interviewers. But doubts persisted. Online, entire forums began dissecting his every word. Family members noted his jittery behavior. And in a move that shocked many, Lilly and Jack's mother soon left Daniel, blocking him on social media, a gesture that poured gasoline on the fire of public suspicion. The media, once cautiously hopeful, began reporting in darker tones. Headlines shifted from "massive search underway" to "odds of survival slim." RCMP officials, careful with their words, stopped calling this a simple disappearance. The language grew sharper: suspicious, criminal investigation. Community leaders began demanding more. Why had there been no Amber Alert when the children first vanished? Chief Mike Sack of the Saipekankatik Mi'kmaq First Nation spoke out, voicing concerns that crucial hours had been lost. And then came the announcement. The Nova Scotia government was offering up to $150,000 for information that could bring Lilly and Jack home. It was one of the largest rewards in the province's history. But even that staggering sum brought no breakthrough. Narrator: low, deliberate. As days stretched into weeks, suspicion was no longer just directed at the woods or strangers passing through. It was turning inward, toward the Sullivan home itself. And at the center of that storm, Daniel Martel was either a desperate stepfather searching for answers, or the man hiding the truth. By late May, the official search had cooled, but the questions had not. That's when a new figure entered the investigation, a detective not from Pictou County, but from outside the region. Experienced, skeptical, known for spotting the small cracks others miss. She was tasked with re-examining every detail: the interviews, the search logs, the timeline. And almost immediately, she saw what many in the community had already been whispering about: gaps, oversights, things that didn't add up. One detail stood out: the sliding glass door. Daniel Martel had sworn it made no sound, that Lilly and Jack could have slipped out silently. But when investigators spoke to others familiar with the home, they described a door that creaked, clicked, sometimes even slammed back on its track. If Daniel was in the next room, could he really not have heard it? Or was his story covering something else? Then there was the surveillance footage. Hours of it, from May 1st, showing the family's movements in town. The RCMP admitted they'd reviewed it, but never released it publicly. Why? Was it to protect sensitive evidence, or to conceal investigative missteps? And the search itself? On the ground, volunteers described trucks circling endlessly, while forensic processing lagged behind. Entire vehicles sat in the yard for days before being checked. Water bodies near the Sullivan property weren't fully dredged until later, if at all. Each delay raised the same question: had vital evidence already been lost? The detective dug into Martel's background. He spoke often of recovery, online classes, and trying to rebuild a better life. But there were inconsistencies. Old records hinted at struggles with drugs, bouts of instability, a pattern of defensiveness under pressure. Her profiling work widened. Not just Martel, but anyone connected to the case. Stress responses. Contradictory state. And then, a moment of tension. In one interview, Martel stumbled. His phrasing shifted. A pause too long, a detail contradicted. For the first time, investigators wondered aloud if the story of two children quietly vanishing into the woods was a tragic accident, or a cover for something far darker. Official reports confirm the case remains unsolved as of mid-August 2025. No trial, no convictions. Wikipedia, Newsweek. The family continues to push for a full public inquiry. The community itself is divided, some cling to faith in slow, quiet progress, while others whisper about cover-ups and institutional failures. Newsweek, Global News. The camera lingers on empty playgrounds, weathered posters curling on lampposts, and candlelit vigils where flames sputter in the night wind. A heavy silence remains, carried in the faces of neighbors, classmates, and parents. It is the silence of unanswered questions, and the silence of children who never came home. Was surveillance footage withheld to protect the integrity of the investigation, or to hide something darker? Did procedural lapses, like the absence of an early Amber Alert or incomplete search zones, cost critical hours? Could inside complicity explain the gaps? Or has the investigation overlooked external perpetrators entirely? These questions do not fade, they haunt. The story must not be forgotten. Viewers, listeners, you are urged to keep this case alive. Share responsibly. Share truth. And if you know something, anything, this is the moment to step forward. Contact the RCMP or Crime Stoppers. A single voice could change everything. 2 children vanished. A community fractured. A detective refusing to accept silence. The truth, or what remains of it, is still out there, waiting. The screen fades to black, music holding only on 2 names. Lilly Sullivan. Jack Sullivan.